Hey guys, welcome back to Vinceville Custom. So today we're going to do another head swap video, and this time we are taking a Captain Marvel premium format head and we're going to be using it for a Power Girl premium format statue. Now, this Captain Marvel came out a while back, and pretty much any of the extra heads that were either replaced, damaged, or whatever happened on eBay sort of dried up. So someone I do work for has actually had this head on his Power Girl statue for a long time, and he really wanted me to, whenever I got a chance and it came up in rotation, is to actually take this head and re-sculpt the hair, or kind of build out the hair a little bit more than what's there and make it look a little bit more like Power Girl's hair, and then fix it into the statue. So I think it's a really great idea, and it's actually good timing too, because I actually have this extra Power Girl statue that I'm going to be using for a custom project that my Patreons are going to vote on. So before I actually, start working on this item, it's good that he was actually able to send me the head so I can actually key it and start working on it, and he doesn't have to actually send me his Power Girl statue to work off of and to get it all messy. So since I have one here already that's getting ready to be customized, I can actually make this messy and it's not the end of the world. I really hate messing up a clean statue like a head swab, because if you do any cracking or breaking or you get any stuff, you got to kind of clean it all up. But since I have something here in hand, it's going to work. Now, as of right now, before I go any further with the project, I'm just waiting for a reply. Whether he wants the head tilted like this, which I actually don't mind. I think it works pretty well. Does he want it tilted this way? Does he want it tilted this way? Or does he want the head straight on? So if he wants the head straight on, that means I got to break the key and rework it. So I'm actually waiting for a reply. When he gives me an idea of where he wants the head placement, that's where we can go. So the main thing first is we're going to get this keyed correctly the way he wants it. Once the head is keyed and we're ready to go, then I can work on the hair. I don't want to try and start doing the hair first and then try to do the key, because if I sculpt a little bit more over in here and it kind of gets messy, it's a little bit tricky. I'd rather have the key first. So I might end up having to repaint the item anyway. I think that's going to be the case, because if I start, getting my hands all like residue and stuff and I start doing this hair, it's going to be kind of tricky. So I'm going to see what he says first. That gives me an idea where to go. I actually might end up just stripping the head too. I might actually just put it in an acetone, strip it, do the hair, do the key and everything, and then paint it from scratch. I think it'll work out better that way. But, I mean, the factory did a good job with it. It's not like they did a bad job. But the problem is, trying to sculpt hair, a key, and all this stuff, I'm bound to just mess it all up and get residue. So I might as well just paint it from scratch. But let's see what he says, and then we'll come back and I'll have a better understanding of how we're going to go about this. But I think when it's done, it should look really, really cool. But maybe at the end, what we can do is I can actually take the final head and put it on one of my Power Girls in my collections, just so we can see what it looks like as a fully cleaned up Power Girl with the cape and the belt and everything on it, than something that's messy like this. So once we get it all decided and we hash out all the details, we'll come back and we'll know how we can go ahead and go further with this project. Okay, so at this point, I stripped down the paint off the head because it's just easier to do hair sculpt with it without having any of that paint on there, because the safety solvent might drip and run and ruins up the paint and it gets messy. So better just to be down to the main resin. I also shaved down the key because we did talk, the idea of having the head kind of turned down like this doesn't really work. Power Girl's kind of known for, like, having her head up high, and kind of, so we might turn the head just a little bit. We don't have to have it straight on, but just a little. Now, if you follow my YouTube channel and stuff, I did make a custom Power Girl head a while back, and the way it worked out is we took the original head sculpt of Power Girl and I made a throwaway mold of the key. And then this way, when I did this head and I printed this head out, I pretty much took the copy of the key, attached it to here, and I had a head that goes in and out of the base like so. So what I did was I poured, I kept this mold, I poured in some resin, and I kind of made a key with a little bit of a hole. So now, basically, I have a nice good flush key here. I don't have to worry about trying to put eaves and Magic Sculpt in there, popping out, cleaning it. I already have it all done. So now what I did is, you can see, kind of dremeled down this key and pretty much kind of line it up. So what I'm going to do right now is we're going to grab some of my eaves, put some eaves in there. And then what I'm going to do is just try to make sure I get an even amount of eaves. And then I'll put a bunch of glue around this edge with some of the Instaset, and I'll get the head lined up and let it sit for the night. So this way, hopefully by tomorrow, what will happen is this eaves in there will kind of bond to this key a little bit, and I'll be able to pop this out with no problem. And then the next step will be sort of kind of thicken up the neck a little bit, because this neck is a little bit too thin for this neck piece here. So it's a matter of popping this key out once I line it up, kind of clean all this up, get it nice and even, and then once all that's done, I don't have to worry about this statue anymore. Basically, I have this head ready to go that's all keyed, lined up where we want it to be, and we could go from there. So let's just get this lined up and we'll see what it looks like. And throw that on there just to make sure it bonds and everything kind of holds up better tomorrow. So you can see the key is working pretty well. It is definitely a little bit of a thicker neck compared to the way this head is, so we definitely got to kind of tweak out some of this neck stuff before we even do any of the hair. But other than that, we are looking pretty good. I did turn her head to a little bit this way, so this way, if you're looking straight on, she's kind of got this angle coming here. But if you want to turn the statue a little bit, you have a little bit of a different angle on the body. So it's just something I wanted to try out. So I think I like this pose a lot. So I'm just going to let this set up for the night, and then when I'm ready to get a chance, when we come back, we can start kind of seaming up the neck and filling in. Because don't forget, when we put this hair over here, it's going to kind of hide this neck a lot. That's kind of the goal. But we still need to fill up the neck in the front area and probably a little bit over here as well. And I think I'm going to sand down that key a little bit too. I don't want that key completely too thick in there, so we got a little bit of tweaking to go. But once we get this neck thing done and everything, we get a magnet in there, we can go from the rest of it. But I might try a little bit extra stuff, like maybe just to be on the safe side, maybe I'll drill a hole through here going into the head and throw a rod or something just to kind of make sure this key holds, because I didn't want to put a rod in here because I have to add this magnet, and if I jumbo into here I might hit the rod. So I'll figure this out. I just want to make sure that, you know, this head is holding in pretty well, and it So over the past few days, what I've been doing is I gave her a coat of skin tone, and I wanted to see if there was anything I was missing. So there was a lot of issues over here. I kind of had to fix and patch up and sand down. Some stuff over here. There's a little bit of extra caked up resin here. There was some stuff over here, of course. Usually that kind of happens. So I had to get in here and sand that down. Then I went over the hair again. I kind of really smoothed out some areas, kind of cleaned up some stuff here and there. So I'm going to do it again is I'm going to do another coat of flesh tone right now. I'm going to let that dry. And then after lunch I could come back and kind of take a look at it again one more time. Make sure everything's nice and clean. And if it is, we're going to start painting it up. And try to match it as best as I can to a fair skin Power Girl skin tone. I don't have a statue anymore in hand with the color, the original like factory color. But I have a sense of idea from other statues that are on my shelf that kind of match those up. So I'll keep it fairly fair skin and stuff like that. So we're going to try to give her semi-smoky eyes, but nothing too crazy. And then, basic, nothing too crazy with the lip skin tones. And then a really nice blonde hair. And she should be ready to go. So let me get that skin tone on her, patch it all up, and we'll come back when we're ready to start doing all the details. Alright, so in my airbrush cup, I put some burnt umber. So there's some old golden I have, and some of the original skin tone. So what I'm going to do is just kind of start hitting the shadow areas. Kind of shadowing it up in certain areas like that. I'm going to try to give her the smoky eyes like I said before, but for right now we're just kind of hitting some areas here and there. So it's not going to take much to do this, and I don't want to go over shading it because like I said, the original paint on the Power Girl statue isn't crazy shaded, so I can't go too crazy with this. So, next what we'll do is we'll get some of our transparent pale flesh and transparent bright flesh. Mix these two together. Only problem is sometimes caps get a little clogged. I like to mix the bright and pale together a little bit. It gives me not an orange, but not a pure red, like a vermilion hue. And I'm just gonna kind of the cheek areas, hit up underneath the eyes a bit. Just some variation, not much. Alright, so I'm gonna clean this cup out, come back, and then we'll do a misting on top of it. So in this cup here, I have a bottle of water and a little bit of alcohol, which is kind of like maybe 10% of the bottle of alcohol, which is probably like 71%. This is what I use down to thin down certain paints. So basically what we're going to do is just kind of tone this down. So what we'll do is we'll kick on the booth. So we don't go too crazy, so that's kind of like, what I remember how the Power Girl skin is. It's usually what Sideshow does is their premium format prototypes have a lot of shading and a lot of blending and stuff. Very light shading or whatever. But when they send it to the factory just paints it in one color and does one quick shade, and that's kind of like what they do. I mean, they're clean about it, but that's pretty much how they go about doing it and everything. So I'm just kind of trying to follow as best I can. So there's one little spot I want to do, which is right there. Alright, so that's good. So next we're going to do some of the eyeshadow, the smoky eye, which we're going to use some women's makeup stuff and maybe some airbrush, we'll see. And then after that, maybe a little bit of blush, work on the lips, the eyes, and then try to get the face mostly done. So I'm going to start working on the eyeshadow a little bit, which is kind of like smoky eyes. I got to be careful not to overdo it. So I'm going to mix up some transparent Payne's Gray, and I think I have a little bit bottle left of Leather Tan, because I don't want it to be pure black shading, but I don't want it to be brown, so I got to try to find that mixture. I'm going to see if I could do some shading there and slowly build it up. If it's not working the way I want it, I'll just go in there with some women's makeup, but I want to at least try to get like a base coat down before I add the women's makeup, because sometimes trying to get the women's makeup on there and blending it right is kind of hard unless you have some sort of a base. So I'm going to do that off camera real quick, and if it looks good, we'll come back. If I have to do the women's makeup, we'll do that. So it's going to be whatever, how it works. It's just that I got to get in closer, and I can't do it with the camera there. So we got the smoky eyes on there, and it went on pretty well. I'm actually happy with it. It took my time with the airbrush. It really kind of went in there and slowly built up. But I want to bring out the edges a little bit more. So I do have some of these tools here. I got my makeup palette as well. Makeup palette's the same thing as if you want to use pastels. I mean, you know, as long as you're not using like liquefied pastel type stuff. This is just like women's makeup stuff you get off of like eBay or whatever. So some of these like other colors here, what I like to do is sort of get in around the edges and sort of darken this up a little bit and not make it pure just black against the harsh white. Of course, you can do this a million different ways. It all depends on what you like, what you want to do, how you want to blend it. If you wanted her to have reddish, blue eyeshadow, I'm just going with the smoky stuff. Just kind of trying to tone down the edges just a little bit. Definitely have to seal this though, and we'll go over that afterwards. For right now, we can take a little bit of the lighter stuff. We do have a brown and a black a little bit here, and what we could do is sort of just a little bit of this area, which is kind of sometimes harder to hit with the airbrush. And if you definitely want to get in darker areas, you could kind of darken in the edges just a little bit. But we're looking pretty good. So I definitely want to do if you use pastels that have, like women's makeup that have sort of like a little bit of glitter glossiness to it, and they feel like more of a paste, you can use it, but you definitely have to seal it up afterwards. So always be careful with those. And also test too in case there's reactions. Sometimes these stuff could react to certain paints and stuff. So I kind of like where that's at. What I like to do too is grab my blush. So this is a brush I've used for years, and it's just for blush on cheeks. So just kind of a little bit, not much, just kind of hit the area a little bit more. And a little bit goes a long way. So what I'm going to do is going to go over to the desk now. I'm going to kind of paint in the eyes, maybe start working out the lips. Maybe even do the eyebrows. When I say do the eyes, I'm just going to paint the eyes in like a off-white. Never paint them in pure like just white paint. Mix a little bit gray in there, kind of do an off-white. I don't like to use yellow in there because it's more grayish. If you could do yellow, it kind of looks like they're bloodshot or on crack or something, you know. So just kind of do some gray. So I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to go over and do all that, try to work out a lot of those details. And then what we'll do is we'll try to get as much done as we can, and then we'll seal it up and then set it up for another day to finish it up. Alright, so it's going to be kind of hard to film this, so I'm just going to explain what I'm doing, so this way it makes life easier. So I have some white paint, some grayish, bluish paint over here. I'm going to mix those in there. I'm going to do the eyes up there, get them all set up, and then I have some black paint, and what I'll do is I'll do the eyelashes, try to get all those done. And if those are looking good, I'm happy where it's at. If I don't have to go back onto everything and redo anything or hit it with the airbrush or anything, because sometimes, you know, it looks fine now, but once you start adding in some other stuff, it could look messed up. Then we could probably move on to the eyebrows and lips. There's really not much more to it, just saying, other than just kind of going on there and just painting it up how I do it. So like I said, yeah, I'll just, now I look over here, there's a little spot of skin tone I have to hit here. So that's easy. It's not over here, it's here. So I could kind of clean that up later, but I could still get these eyes done. So I'll try and, you know, just go back and forth and take pictures of like how I progress. And then from there, we'll kind of go over to the lips when we're ready to start those. So I got the eyes where I want it, so you can kind of see we got a nice smoky eye look to her and everything. I had to go back in there with a little bit of pastels, but I'm happy with it. So before I seal this up, we're going to do the lips. I'm going to try to do the lips as best as I can. So we have some flesh wash, we have some bright flesh, we have some red paint, we got mahogany here, we got some white, we got some gray. So I don't want to make her bright red lips, but I don't want to make them just bland. So I'm going to try to do some washes first, see how it looks. And then from there go and add more. But I'm probably going to also add some flesh tone that I have from her regular flesh tone if I figure I'm going a little too crazy with it. So I don't mind the smoky eyes and the eyelashes, that's fine. But we don't want to make it like bright red, crazy red lipstick on her. You know, that's kind of not what she's at. So I'm going to try to lighten it up as best as I can. Like I said, I'll do this off camera as well because I got to get in there closer. I use my headgear so I can see what the hell I'm doing with something so close. And I'm just going to try to give her some natural lips with a little bit of lipstick, but nothing too crazy. So let's see what I could come up with and we'll be back. So went ahead and got the lips done. Like I said, I wanted to kind of make it as natural as possible with giving a little bit of, you know, some kind of a lipstick, but nothing too crazy. So I'm pretty happy with it. I'm trying to kind of like blend off the edging a little bit. And like I said, I didn't really want to make it pure like lipstick. It's just harsh lipstick. So I think once it's glossed up, it'll look a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and do the eyebrows. I'll probably do a lot of the trim around the hair. Try to get this part all touched up as well too. And then after that, we're just going to seal it up. So time to seal it all up. I did my trim around there. I got the eyebrows on. Everything's good. When I do Power Girl eyebrows, I don't like to just do like jet black, but I don't like to do like bright yellow. So for right now, I just did like a mahogany there. Once I do the hair, and then I come back, maybe I'll do a little bit of light browns and stuff on the eyebrows, but for right now I think we're pretty good. We'll see how it goes. Sometimes they look good, sometimes they don't. It all depends on once I get the hair going, but at least I have a base there. So what I like to do is use Duplicolor car paint. This is a very, you know, glossy paint when you put it on. It's a top coat. This is going to really protect a lot of this paint and skin tone. And then what I do is I've come to the conclusion on how I do this is once I put that on, I spray the matte varnish from Mecca over right away. Not like right away, like give it like a second or two and then spray it on there. This is going to dull down this, but when this is semi-tacky and it's still a little bit not fully cured, this will bond into this a little bit better and it'll create a nice flat coat and protect him. So time to seal this up. So I went around there with some raw umber. I think it's raw umber. Yeah, I think it's raw. And what I did is I just kind of did a trim around the hair. It always helps me for when I'm ready to do the masking. So I really want to seal up the head. The reason why is because this head is removable. So if you leave the paint bare like this and you don't give a really good protective you know, coating, you could dig your nail in it by accident. You can scrape it. You know, acrylic paints in the USA are still, you know, they can, like, you know, scrape and stuff, just like any paints. But a lot of the stuff that's made overseas, that stuff is a little bit more potent, and I still believe that that stuff's got lead in it or some kind of chemical that's not allowed in the US. But once it's cured, it's allowed. So we'll just have to deal with what we got. But I really like the, you know, whatever parts that are removable, and I really want to make stuff durable. I use Duplicolor car paint. This is a flat top coat. It is this number right there. Hopefully you guys can see it in screen. Basically, this is going to give it a really nice, good gloss coat and protective seal. But the problem is if you don't dull it down, it's going to stay glossy. So I have Mecha Varnish, matte varnish here from Vallejo. What I've been doing a lot lately is I'll spray this on the item. Well, what I used to do is I used to spray this on the item, let it cure, and then I would dull it down. But the problem is this stuff doesn't really bond to the sleek, you know, smoothness of this car paint. And what happens is if you rub it too much, you're not rubbing the paint, but you're rubbing this Vallejo matte varnish off of this clear top coat and it gets shiny again. Not really, really shiny, but enough that it starts to kind of sheen on you. And we want to try to keep it a little bit flat. The other thing too is, now that I'm thinking about it, it's going on a pre-painted item. So what I might do is use some of their satin varnish mixed in with a little bit of this. So the idea, what I've been doing a lot lately for a lot of my skin tones, is I'll spray this on the item, seal it, and then before this actually really cures, when it's semi-tacky still, because this stuff dries fairly fast, I'll spray the matte varnish on there so it bonds to this a little bit better and it really dulls it down and it gives it really protective coating. And it really doesn't like cloud up the item as long as you don't overspray or bleed it. But with this one, I'm going to have in my airbrush mixed up these two together. So this way it'll be a little bit of a sheen, but it won't be super flat. So this way it'll sort of match that factory paint, which is kind of what we want to go with. So it should work out pretty well. So we'll seal, and then we kind of dull it, satin it down, and then we let it dry up for the night or two or whatever. And then when I come back, we do the hair. And at the very end, we add the eyes, and then we're done. So I got the hair masked off, and this is the actual Power Girl body, but this is the Giganta that I'm working on. So I just masked her off so I can actually have something to work on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a base coat of raw sienna on it. That'll help darken up sort of hair. So this is going to be like the darkest color on the hair. Instead of using white or pure yellow, I'm going to be trying to use like Titan Buff, which is kind of like an off-white. You can use many other colors. You can even mix some skin tone in with the hair. And maybe a little bit of yellow, but not too much yellow. You know, I'm trying to go for that dirtier blonde look. If you look at a lot of, you know, what are those hair care products or those like color dye products on packages, you know, for, you know, making the hair, dyeing them all up and stuff. If you notice that like a lot of blonde hair is not pure yellow out of the bottle. It's not just like boom, this yellow right out of the bottle. It's actually a lot of like browns and sort of like really off like whitish yellows, platinums and stuff like that. So that's kind of like what I've been trying to do a lot more with blonde hair now. Unless you're going for more of that comic accurate type of a character or sculpt or paint up and you want to use pure yellows and stuff out of things. So there will be a little bit of yellow in there, but not much. I'll probably might do some dry brushing as well. It's just a matter of kind of just blending it all out. But I'm going to pull this head off. I'm going to try to get a lot of the raw sienna painted underneath and stuff, so this way once it's up here I don't have to worry too much about trying to get under there. Even though there is a magnet in there and stuff, it's easier to have it on a statue, and this should work out pretty well. So if there's anything I have to touch up at the bottom afterwards, I can, but let's just go ahead and start plugging away on it. Alright, so in my container here, I have on the thing, I'm just going to start mixing up colors. And I just want to kind of start doing some dry brushing. So this is kind of like a little bit more of a yellowish mix with the raw sienna and the off-white. So I just want to get some yellow on here, and then we're going to kind of go back in with the off-white. I did blow dry the hair just to dry it up because you don't want this to be soaking wet. And you don't want your dry brushing to be like tons and tons of paint glopped onto it. Otherwise you start filling up in the areas. So you just kind of want to try to keep doing stuff like this. So just going to keep going around the hair. Go back into my mixture. First I start doing a little bit lighter, and then I kind of So it's a very, very dirty, dirty blonde at the moment. It's just a matter of keep throwing. colors down. So got sort of a base color going right now. So we'll just go into the next step higher, mix a little bit more of the off-white into the color that I just kind of had. So this is kind of close to like a lot of factory paint right now at the moment. You know, whenever you see like factories kind of try to do blonde hair, this is kind of like where they kind of ended at. But we want to add a little bit more to it than just straight up this color. So we're going to go back into that off-white with a little bit more of the other colors. Take it down a bit. Just slowly start brightening it up a little bit more. The idea is to try to brighten it up without going too crazy. Now I might fill in some areas, but we'll go back into like with a paintbrush on its own and get those lines back. If you feel too much of a, you know, get too much gloppy, like a spot like right over here is kind of a little gloppy, and the spot right here is kind of gloppy. So it's just a matter of just going back in there with that original color from the base. Always make sure you know what colors you're mixing, because this way when you take off the masking, if you got to get back in there and sort of touch up some of the stuff that's hitting the skin, because if you put the masking too far up, you got to touch it. So going a little bit of a brighter color now. I'm just going to keep building. Just keep building it. You know, you can start stylizing it a little bit more, so if you go with a really brighter off-white, you could kind of hit it just in these areas, in this area, and that area, without going like around. So you kind of create like a highlight going around, so you can kind of do it like here as well. Alright, so we're going to keep just building and building and building. Definitely going with the more off-white. You know, that off-white might even be like the highlight part on the hair if you really want to make it nice, bright blonde without pure yellow out of the bottle. So we do have yellow hair. It's definitely not crazy yellow from a bottle. So you can kind of see where we're at compared to if you just threw the yellow of the bottle on there. So we got a nice brighter area. So a couple of these parts kind of glopped in there, so I'm going to have to get in there with the paintbrush soon and sort of kind of fix that up. But I want to get a little bit more highlighted areas popping a bit. Alright, so I'm going to go in there off camera. I'm going to kind of touch up some of these lines and then we'll come back and see what my next step is. Sometimes I like to add a little pearls into the hair with a airbrush, just to give it that silky look. Even though I'm going to flatten it down, it just makes it pop a little bit more without being like, you know, metallic or pearlized. Just a hint of pearlized just gives it that silky look. Well, let me go in and touch some of this stuff up, and we'll come back and do that. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with where it's at right now. That still might do some touch-ups here and there once it's kind of dry, because it's still a little bit tacky, and I don't want to handle it too much while it's like that. So I do have some pearlized gold metallic and some pearlized white. What I like to do is sort of grab my water with a little bit of the alcohol mixed in, put a little bit of the pearl gold in here. Kind of mix it up in a cup a bit, put it on the boot, and just give it a little bit of a pearl coat. Nothing too crazy. So that gives it a little bit of a sheen to it. Nothing really, you know, you don't want to go full blown, like, you know, pearlize it, but just enough. And now what I do is like to go back in there with the water and alcohol with a little bit of the white. It's mixed up pretty well. And then what I like to do is sort of hit the highlight area. Just like there, a little bit here, a little bit on this one, there. Alright, so it's kind of like now, it's kind of like a blonde hair. It's got a little bit of highlight to it. It's not like straight out of the bottle, and I think it works pretty well. What I'm going to do is sort of let it cure up for a while, and then come back to it, touch it up, and then probably seal it. I'm probably going to, oh, actually right now what I'll do is, this usually kind of helps melt it together a bit. If you have Tester's Dull Coat, which I do have it, I gotta find the bottle. There it is. So Tester's Dull Coat is kind of a good sealer, but not the best sealer in the world, at least for these. I usually like to make them a little bit more durable, but this will sort of melt the paint a little bit. It does melt your silly putty, so be very careful. It will not kill your silly putty. The silly putty will dry. But if you try and, you know, pull off the silly putty now, it gets very tacky and it could melt the paint and you can get the paint sort of stuck on the face. So give it a little time to kind of cure up. As far as sealing it, like really sealing it, what I probably will do is some of the Vallejo satin varnish or the matte varnish on top of it. But I just need to let this cure for a bit, so I'll probably eat lunch, come back, and then do it. And then once I can actually handle the hair, like really handle it, and it's dried up, like maybe tomorrow, I could go back in there with the paintbrush and sort of kind of clean some of this stuff up a little bit, maybe some of these areas, just like kind of work them out. But as of right now, they're looking pretty decent. You know, that little pearl kind of helps make stuff pop a bit. But I'll kind of go over some areas and see if I need to touch anything up. But you never really want to handle this stuff when it's pretty much, you know, tacky and kind of messed up, because then you're just going to run into problems. So let's let it cure up, and I think what I'll do is, once it's all done, we'll come back. I'll probably have it finished up. I'm going to add the eyes separate. Once everything is always done, I always add the eyes. I don't like trying to put the eyes in first and then masking stuff, because sometimes the silly putty might pull out those decals. Even if you seal them, sometimes they just, the silly putty just grabs that decal. It's just kind of a pain in the ass. But eyes are always last, so I'll probably just put in the eye decals at the end. I'm going to have this all cleaned up, and then what we'll do is when we come back, she should be all finished up. We'll have the head on one of my other Power Girls of my own collection in the studio, in the photo setup, and we can see what it looks like all finished up. Okay, so she is all finished up. Now, this is not the Power Girl body that's going to the client. This is actually my Power Girl custom statue in my own collection. I just wanted to pop her out and show you guys what she looks like, you know, with the head on the body and everything. And I really like it a lot. I actually kind of regret not trying to snag one of these heads back in the day and use it for my own Power Girl. It's probably one of my favorite head sculpts from Sideshow. I mean, they've done a lot of good ones over the past couple of years, probably after the past 2 years. But this one is still one of my favorites. I really like the sculpt. It just has that nice, strong feel for Power Girl. The heads that came with the original Power Girl were okay, but not really feeling it because I think I'm not sure if they based it off Stanley Lau's artwork or Stanley Lau drew it after they sculpted. I'm not really sure who did it, but I wasn't really a fan of them. That's why I wanted to do the head swap outs. And the new Power Girl that's coming out in 2022. I like the head, but I don't like it. I like this stronger cheekbones, and I like this stronger look for Power Girl. I think they're trying to make it too... Not really sure where they're going with it, but what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to look up a lot of, like, 3D sculptors out there and other heads that might be popping up on eBay and holding on to them. So this way I could do sort of like a swap out like this next year for my own Power Girls when they come out, the new ones. But this was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with this. I think it looks great. Klein had a great idea by holding on to this head and putting on his Power Girl, and just worked out really good. So let me come in a little bit closer here so I can show you guys. Bear with me on the new camcorder. I'm actually trying to play with the coloring and lighting and stuff, so I'm trying to make sure things are looking pretty good. But this just worked out great. Now I have to say this is probably one of my better head paint-ups. I'm actually trying to do a lot more studying on women's makeup tutorials on YouTube. I'm just trying to see like if I could do it in smaller scale. Just trying to get things a little bit better. I like the hair is a lot more of like a platinum sort of blonde, not pure like yellow. Kind of like trying to go like that more. I like the way I did the eyeshadow on this. You know what it is too? Is the sculpt allowed me to get the eyeshadow on cleaner compared to some of the other heads that are out there. I think because of the, the eye bone areas over here on the top corners of the eyes over there, they're kind of like a little bit more pronounced, and it's easier to get the paint and the blending in there compared to some of the other heads out there that don't have that, and you got to try to force it. And also with makeup, whenever it's a character from now on that's kind of more natural look like Power Girl, where she doesn't have like heavy lipstick like, Harley Quinn or Catwoman, I'm trying to do more of the blending of the lips on the top and bottom so it's not kind of, harsh paint. So I'm practicing, I'm trying to get more onto the head sculpting, the makeup, the paint work, trying to get all that stuff going. And for the eyes now, what I'm trying to do too is a little bit more of using the Archer Fine Transfer Detail eyes, and then using those as like a template, because trying to paint circles on eyes, I can never ever get them right. But if I could put the eye decals on there and seal them, and then I could go in with a paintbrush and I can sort of do a little bit of touch up and make them a little bit more natural looking and make them pop a little bit more, and then clear coat them. I think that's working out a lot better now. So I'm doing that a lot more too with my statues. So trying new things, trying to get better, trying new techniques when I can. And this was a great project to do all that. So let me know what you guys think about this. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you wish that something like this was a little bit more stronger for this Power Girl statue compared to what Sideshow originally produced? Let me know if you like the whole, tweaking heads onto other statues, because I want to try to do that a little bit more with other stuff. But yeah, hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back with some more videos.